Secret House.
Secret House.
Secret House.
And welcome back. We are people who review albums, and we also live in Tokyo and such. We're in Ikebukuro right now, and this is Secret House Against the World. Today we are reviewing Injury Reserve and their newest album, By the Time I Get to Phoenix. It's 11 minutes. Oh, it's 11 songs. It's like 41 minutes.
11 minutes.
That's an album for some people these days. And it'd be like
It's a TikTok album.
11 minutes and 14 songs, right? But yeah, this is their second album, but like their third actual project. Is that accurate? I don't know.
Sounds about right.
How familiar are we all with Injury Reserve? Off top. Let's start and we'll just move from you to me to Spade.
I've been aware of them for a long time. I've listened to a lot of their stuff. Like I fuck with them. I didn't really become like, I didn't like sit down and give them a deep listen until Groggs passed away.
Okay.
That was when I, kind of decided to actually get into them, because a lot of my friends who were into hip hop and were into that kind of experimental alternative hip hop were like absolutely devastated by his loss. So
yeah.
I was like, I better like pay some respect to it and actually give it a good listen.
That's a good point to say. The group consists of three people. It's Richie with a T. It's Parker Corey, and then it's Step Groggs. And Groggs last year he passed away under like mysterious circumstances. Well, mysterious to us.
Yeah,
they didn't really say what he passed away from. There's been a lot of projection and guesses about that, but I don't really care to speculate myself. But it was definitely a passing. I myself was a fan of them before his passing. Not a super fan. Drive It Like You Stole It was an interesting album to me because I come from that tradition of experimental rap shit, Shabazz Palaces. I'm a Death Grips fan. Sure. Anti-Pop Consortium. Anti-Pop Consortium. These are, so it was kind of in the vein of music that I appreciated, but I wasn't too big of a fan. I am a fan of Dos Monos, who also makes similar like alternative alt rap music. They've collaborated. Shout out to my guys in Dos Monos. But I didn't like the self-titled album as much as Drive It Like You Stole It. But yeah, that's my familiarity with them. How about you, Spade?
Mostly just on features, man. I've heard them on various features. Most notably, Amine. Yeah, that's where I was introduced to them. So, man, this was an adventure for me. It was something.
Yeah, they rock with surprisingly, like they've done work with like Gibbs, and there's quite a few features of people who are less aesthetically experimental or alternative,
to say the least.
Yes, to say the least. Yeah, this album, of course, I don't know if this is like their last album, since the majority of it was recorded before Groggs passed, which is a little bit strange to me because he's not on a lot of the tracks. He's missing from a lot of the tracks, and I don't know if that was like a choice to limit his kind of features to things that might be more meaningful.
Could be.
What he's talking about,
or at least just like his direct contributions to the album, as opposed to like digging up verses and then just kind of plastering them on top. I get the impression.
Theory,
I get the impression, they obviously wanted to pay a lot of respect to their friend and be very mindful towards his passing, towards the completion of the album.
It in a way, it kind of, when I heard the album was coming out and even listening to it, it kind of reminds me a bit of like, you remember when David Bowie passed and the Black Star album came out?
Yep.
But it kind of was like, Bowie, he was on his way out, and so he makes this kind of like haunting, dark kind of like last requiem type of, what I mean, for himself.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was like, once I listened to it, that's kind of what I got from this. It was a haunting listen, but to be honest with you, I don't know my real sentiment about it, because there's a few tracks on here that I really enjoy, and a lot of them also I felt were a bit of a slog for me to get through. I like it as a cohesive piece because it does seem cohesive. It doesn't sound like like, you know, even though the song approaches are different music genres at times, it sounds, you know, at one point it's like a footwork type of 160 BPM. Then there's more experimental. There's like kind of a sludgy rock vibe to a lot of the songs, a metal vibe, industrial vibe. It doesn't sound like you're jumping between video game worlds, like this video game Call of Duty to like a Mario where it's all these different soundscapes. It sounds more like you're moving across a unified kind of dreamscape, kind of like like an Alice in Wonderland, where there's an anchor to a lot of the kind of vibe of the album. And so I do really enjoy a lot of these songs. What was your general, let's do, before we get into the specifics of the songs and such, what are your general thoughts on it? I had a feeling Spade wouldn't be feeling this one, and the look on your face is kind of leading me to believe otherwise. You love this album of the year contender?
Yeah, let me get this thought off and hear me out before y'all make a comment. Hear me out. If you take this, in my opinion, humblest of opinions, if you take this album as a musical project, it's garbage. Not good. Sucks. Terrible. Right? I had to find myself listening to this like 3 or 4 times to get through it. But that being said, if you remove this as a musical project and look at it as like kind of a cinematic thing, it makes all the sense in the world. Like, it's not a bad album if you look at it in the cinematic sense, like, yo, these guys are kind of painting a picture and telling a movie. Like, it's like a Pink Floyd type album where, like, if you put the Wizard of Oz behind this junk, it goes hard. But as a flat out musical project, I was like, man, what the hell are we doing here? Can I get a kick drum? Like, the first 2 songs on the album, I was just like, what are we doing, my guy? It didn't get good until Z Loopers came in. And I'm like, okay, that jump hard. And then Knees go hard. But the rest of the songs, I'm just like, bruh, like, I felt like if you gave me some kick drums, man, the jump would have been hard,
I get it. I get it. You know, I think probably, you know, they've got a huge following of people that really enjoy this approach to music. So you're probably going to get dragged in the comments worse than you did for Haram. But I feel you on that. To be honest with you, I definitely, I agree with it to a point. Some of this stuff doesn't work so well for me musically, but as a piece of art or like an intention of what they're doing, I kind of rock with a lot of it. It's just that we initially, me and Jet, we were supposed to review this album a few weeks ago, and then it fell apart because of the typhoon and just generally being like lackadaisical about getting together, at least on my side. But my first listen to it, I found it difficult to get through, and I thought maybe that was just the time that it was at, but I wanted to give it a real single listen all the way through as a piece of art, because I kind of felt like that's what it must be, since this is kind of like a Groggs is Gone type of album. And my appreciation for it is more towards the artistic intent than it is for all of the musical moments, even though I do really fucking rock with and love a lot of the things that they do on this. There's just a few tracks that like I can't get anything from it. And I think a part of that is that I want it to be very haunting and deep, and I want it to be like this last Groggs thing, but the lyrical content is not
good.
Well, I don't get what they're getting, like the lyrics are on a lot of these songs.
Ground Zero with it.
Yeah, I mean, some like the Will Smith, like Wild Wild West joint, like there's like Will Smith lines in there that are kind of like tongue-in-cheek funny, but
I made a note.
I don't get it dark.
I made a note on this.
You want me to hand you your phone?
If you don't mind, man. I made a note on this.
Well, let Jet get off his general thoughts on the album too. I cut him off too. My bad.
No, you guys are tripping. This album's great.
It is a good album.
Like I really fuck with like improvised music. I used to go to like a lot of improvised stuff in Tokyo. You know, like Koenji Club Liner kind of, you know, some people would be doing stuff with like modular synthesizers. Some people would be doing stuff with loopers and, you know, messing around with like an SP404 or a performance controller. Some people would like be on stage. There'd be like a performance art element to it. You know, I've been to shows where it's like a guy would come up on stage, he'd play something incredibly virtuosic with his saxophone, and then just like dismantle his saxophone mid-performance, and then just be like blowing through the mouthpiece to like, you know, make this like high-pitched like tooting noise and stuff. And it was very like free. It was very improvised, and it's the same vibe I get from this album. It feels like something, you know, where you're at like some kind of improvised music event with a bunch of very talented people just kind of doing their own thing.
I actually, I also come from that artistic background and following that type of music, and a lot of the music I listen to doesn't make sense to a person that's looking for something that is, your verse, chorus, verse, 4/4 beats and things that are not disorganized. But it is very artistic album to me, and it's not. You can't reduce what they're doing on this to like just noise. There's an intent and there's a lot of things that are done. Like what is it, the second track, Superman, that the kind of like this driving beat, it takes a while for it to feel like it really syncopates, and then it syncopates for me like 3 or 4 minutes in, and I'm like, oh, okay, I fucking get like what that whole, and maybe that's
after
not even
the
track.
third listen, you kind of get it.
Right.
But my first initial note, and I will be honest, it says the initial tip was fuck a beat, fuck a tempo, fuck life, fuck a cadence, fuck rhymes, fuck rhythms. And I said that because everything is all over the place. And it becomes intentional when you listen to it. You're like, okay, now I see the genius in it. I see what y'all was trying to get at. But for me personally, it was just very jazz-like. Very jazz and improvisational. I liken it to like a bunch of guys getting together and doing freestyle sessions.
I think it's a bit more intentional than that. I think actually not even a bit. I think it's completely intentional. A lot of the things that they're doing on the album, you can't just like fuck up and make shit that works this well. If you gave it to a child with a bunch of things, it's not going to come out like this. There's a lot of intention and a lot of incredible things in that cohesion that Parker is able to keep with the sound is really kind of something that's a little bit magical to me. It's just, again, like some of these songs I just personally at the time of listening couldn't get synced up with them myself. It's like watching fucking Eraserhead on like when your wife's pregnant or some shit. Like that's not a good idea, and maybe I just wasn't in the place to watch Eraserhead at the time. But I watch it and I see it and I was like, yo, this is incredible. This is an incredible album, and a lot of the things that I do like about it, I don't think I'd find that anywhere else. Like
I feel like there's already been a lot of discourse about this record and, what everything means on it. And, a lot of people are being a little intrusive in terms of speculating on, Groggs' passing and how that relates to the record, if the lyrics like have some kind of implications
like
towards
alcoholism
that,
on knees
alcoholism
and
on knees. So the one kind of, I hope, original take I have on this record, the one thing that I haven't really heard anyone talk about is, to me at least, this album sounded British. It's got like, so for a start, like some of the samples and collaborations on that record, you got Morgan Simpson from Black Midi playing drums on Outside. You've got the Black Country New Road sample on Superman That. You've got another Black Midi sample on Knees. They sample the song Sweater. And then, you got tracks like Postpartum that sound like trip hop to me. Like it sounds like it's, it's got like that tricky, like Massive Attack. The ambience, the atmosphere of it is very kind of smoky and distant, but at the same time kind of comes into sharp focus as it goes on. It's got this kind of almost dub sensibility to it in places. And yeah, for me, considering that Injury Reserve are not a British outfit, like there was something quite home-like and reassuring to it for me.
I don't think that I got much of anything British from it myself,
sure.
But I can see how you can make those type of connections. I'd like to get back into talking more about the positives that I really enjoyed about the album, because I think that this music is challenging for a lot of people, and it's not something that a lot of people would even consider music in a lot of cases. I know people that are hip hop heads that are listening to King's Disease 2 and like, yo, this is Nas's back, like this is Nas's album of the year, you know what I mean? And if I put them onto this, it'd be like, is this even hip hop? Is this even music? What they're doing here? But personally, me, man, I some of these songs were able to, even without like diving into the lyrics, were able to elicit like and pull out certain emotions from me that don't just happen spontaneously.
Once again, if you use this music as a background or as a soundtrack to life, it goes hard. Like I find myself like when you walking, like this is some damn good like background music for you. Like it captures a lot of emotions, but musically, for me, it just didn't do it for me. And look, I'm a guy who loves drums and hard hitting sounds, so I'm not these tweak drums. They're not for me. Like,
Sure.
I'm gonna just throw that out there, but I do see the genius in this. The originality, you get a 10. Like you said, it's totally intentional what they're doing. This is organized chaos, but it's organized. I see it. Like it took me like the third listen. I'm like, okay, now I get it. But I can say it's not for me. But overall, I would like introduce this to my homies. Be like, yo, check this out, because it's new. I can't do nothing but give them like points for originality. We always gripe about nobody does anything new. Nobody take any risks in hip hop, and they did. So I can't be on one hand be like, man, everything sounds the same, and then not give them credit for like stepping out and doing something new. So yeah, props for this, man. Yeah, dead ass.
Again, like back to the lyrics part of it, that's kind of where it kind of doesn't connect with me too much. I wasn't able to get a lot of out of some of the song's lyrics. Like 5G, is that supposed to be? Is that like a tongue in cheek, like a meta commentary on social media and
that's what
conspiracy
I thought
theory?
that it was meant to be, like, disinformation,
right?
This idea of the towers going up everywhere.
Right.
It's very kind of there is this kind of sarcastic, like, tongue in cheek element, and I think it was kind of a very indirect commentary on how we disseminate information throughout our cultures, and I think the album itself is even a bit of a product of that. These kind of, you had like the very weird like rollout of the vinyl where they were kind of like, yeah, we're just gonna produce as many as you guys want, you'll get them in 6 months, like, and then we're not gonna do it anymore. And then it was like the hearsay and all the speculation about Grogs. Like, I really got the impression that this was a group that, because a lot of the album doesn't really come with a lot of answers. There's not really like, I mean, the fact they put Knees at the end, which is a pretty devastating track, and especially the video.
It was like the rollout too. It was like Knees and then
Superman,
right? Those two songs. Knees got me really excited.
Knees is hard, bro.
Knees, even think about that. Like, as soon as it comes on, like the hair on my arm stands up. It's a powerful sounding. I've never heard anything quite like that before. It's amazing in that regard. And the lyrics on it are pretty, like, I guess I got to connect it also to the mystery of what happened to Groggs, but you hear him talking about what the alcohol's doing to his stomach and just like these type of struggles in the chorus,
like people around him. And
maybe because I wasn't like listening to this album for answers, I was kind of detached from it. I was just looking at the album as a project. I'm not taking more from it. It seems like people who listen to this album have a big emotional connection to it. I don't, like, and I'm not trying to knock the group or anything like that. I just don't. I'm just listening to it as a musical project. And like, yo, Knees go hard. I'll tell anybody, like, Knees go hard. But overall, the rest of the project,
there's some, like, I was trying to get something out of a lot of the lyrics. Like on Ground Zero, there's a line about CeeLo. We were talking about CeeLo right before this started, and it's just like, I get that this is kind of like challenging, a bit edgy or whatever. But what is the line? We don't care if you sleep like CeeLo, and it's just like, okay. I mean, if there's supposed to be like, again, me projecting and trying to create some type of emotional connection with the album for what it might stand for, it gets pulled back just a little bit by moments like this that take me out of it in terms of, and it's not fair to them because they're not saying this album is supposed to be anything like that. They're not saying this is, their victory lap or whatever anybody wants to call it. And their lyrics have never really been super dense or insightful
even on the
in that regard ever. So I am kind of, that's why for me, this album, I see it as like a tremendous accomplishment. One of the most interesting projects I've heard all year. I think a lot of the songs on here are absolute fire. Knees is probably in my top 20 favorite songs of the year, just for that 4 minutes alone off this whole album. That has a lot of points. I do enjoy the album, but it's not close to like a perfect album for me.
Sometimes an apple is an apple, man. I was on a movie and I was reading the script, and this one part of the line says, "And the man bites a red apple." And I went to the director. I was like, "Yo, this is a symbolism for capitalism." And then, man, he's like, "No, it's an
Original
apple."
sin.
Yeah, he's like, "No, it's an apple." I was like, "But what the red apple means? It's an apple." I'm like, and maybe the apple's an apple, bro. I'm just saying.
What about you, Jet? Like, where does this album really rank very high on you on like your year favorites?
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably in my top 10 overall. It's
That's tight.
probably my top 5 for hip hop.
I have no problem with that.
Until I listened to LP by JPEG Mafia. that was my favorite hip hop
Is that
release.
right?
If you can call it a hip hop record.
Okay.
Because I think you could argue that it is as much like a prog record as it is a hip hop record.
Yeah.
If we're really gonna get abstract in terms of genre, like, I mean, 90% of the album isn't even rapping.
Indeed.
There's some singing on there. There's some rapping on there. There's some bars
main-
on there as well. But like
the main thing that ties it to rap is like, obviously this is like sample based music.
Right.
And that's like, I mean, what isn't? So,
True.
Yeah.
That's facts.
I don't really mind whatsoever somebody saying this is their album of the year. I'm like, word, I see it. I see what you get, and I see how you love this. If you like this type of music, of course, absolutely. For me, this album will make it to my top 15 of the year, probably. This year hasn't really been super strong for me in terms of albums that blew my mind. And this album's up there with an album that I need to process more. I do like it, though.
It's very niche for me. This is a niche genre. So I mean, I respect you guys' opinion on this, and I agree with you. A lot of the albums this year really meh.
I gotta go and look at it, but like Mike's album is probably one of my favorites of the year. JPEG's new album is one of my favorites of the year. This album is great. I'm gonna give it a thumbs up, and say fucking listen to this, especially if you come from the tradition of cats that like fucking anti-pop or Shabazz Palaces or Dalek and I'm only confining this to hip hop, but if you like fucking some Tom Waits shit, you'll probably enjoy this. So yeah, word up. That's all I've got to really say about it. Jet, you had some insight on potentially what might be samples that they use. It used to be a faux pas to tell people what samples were on records, but I think you're allowed to do that shit nowadays, right?
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned
mentioned
a few of them when I was talking about the Britishness of this record. You had Athens, France by Black Country New Road on there.
I'm gonna play that
Superman that
and see for our listeners maybe is it a little further.
It's about. There we go. Yeah. It's coming up.
Yeah, maybe this is where they got that from. And I love that people are so willing to sample and take music from new music now. There used to be like a time like it's like, yo, you can only sample records that were 20 years old, 20 right?
Years with the line of
demarcation.
And also I think like there's a connection there that I don't know how to use your phone. Oh, it's not in. Is this your library? Okay.
Yeah.
So
is that Thundercat on Outside?
I don't believe so.
Okay. I don't know.
Maybe.
He popping up. He got that Dragon Ball do-rag on. He just be popping up.
But there's
Black Midi.
So Black Country New Road,
Okay.
Closely affiliated with Black Midi. Like I said, the drummer from Black Midi.
New Road. Is that a Little Nas X remix? Seemed like it could be, right?
Last year, Black Midi put out a track called Sweater.
Okay. Of course, Knees. Yeah, look at Jet, man. See,
very British.
Yeah.
This is my favorite band right now. Like their album Cavalcade that came out this year is currently probably my number one album of the year right now.
But
I gotta go and listen to it.
I would recommend this album too. Like I hope it doesn't come off like I'm hating on this album, guys. I'm really not. Like I thought this album was super original.
Yeah, don't be shitty in the comments again. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, I can take it, man. My shoulder's big enough.
Well, one of the reasons that I wanted to put us together is because I thought we all had a kind of interesting, unique perspective on music, and I'd like to not be some type of, a lot of cats are like, yo, this album's crazy, the reaction video type of reviewers, and I like when we disagree. And I like when we can have these discussions because this is a real discussion about the music. Like some people don't fuck with your weird ass shit.
Once again, it's original. I would recommend this album. I hope, like I said, I don't come off like I'm shitting on the album, but overall, man, I'm a guy who like really leaned towards drums, and this had like none.
Drums.
None.
Yeah, I feel you. I don't know. Do we have anything else to say about it? Or should we get out of here, man?
Yes, y'all get out.
Secret House against
Secret House.
Injury Reserve.
El Spadia 2, November 16th.
I always forget to, like, comment, subscribe
You do.
to your friends. I don't know how to do a YouTube. I'm a podcaster.
You know
Like the
what?
Late Show
I
shit.
think that makes you better though, because you don't beg for likes.
But I think begging works because sometimes I'll be watching people and they'll be like, don't forget to like. I put a lot of effort into this.
Click
and I'm like,
that bell.
oh, yeah. So like our shit immediately.
Now, do it.
Peace.
Do it. Fuck the alt right.
El Spadia 2, November 16th.
Yeah, download his album.